You check your email. 37 new messages. You start reading one, but a Slack notification interrupts. You switch to Slack. Someone tagged you. You respond. Another notification. You check it. Now you've forgotten what email you were reading. You go back. Another interruption. Your phone buzzes. Text message. You check it. Respond. Back to email. Wait, what was I doing? This cycle repeats hundreds of times daily. At the end of the day, you're exhausted but accomplished nothing meaningful. Welcome to the modern knowledge worker's reality. Welcome to life dominated by shallow work. Dr. Cal Newport, computer science professor at Georgetown University, has spent over a decade researching productivity, focus, and the nature of valuable work in the digital age. His research led to a provocative thesis he calls the deep work hypothesis. The ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare at exactly the same time it's becoming increasingly valuable in our economy. As a result, the few who cultivate this skill, and then make it the core of their working life, will thrive. Deep work is professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. Writing a research paper is deep work. Developing a business strategy is deep work. Writing code for a complex system is deep work. Learning a challenging new skill is deep work. These activities require sustained attention and produce valuable outcomes. Contrast this with shallow work, non-cognitively demanding, logistical-style tasks, often performed while distracted. Answering email is shallow work. Attending most meetings is shallow work. Scheduling and administrative tasks are shallow work. Scrolling through social media pretending it's networking is shallow work. These activities are easy, don't create much new value, and are easy to replicate. Here's the brutal reality. Most knowledge workers spend the majority of their time on shallow work while convincing themselves they're being productive. They're in a state of constant distraction, switching between tasks every few minutes, never achieving the deep concentration required for meaningful work. Meanwhile, a small minority has learned to systematically protect their time for deep work, and they're producing dramatically better results with less effort. Cal Newport himself is proof of this hypothesis. As a full professor at Georgetown, he publishes multiple peer-reviewed papers annually, writes best-selling books every few years, teaches courses, advises students, and yet he's done with work by 5:30 p.m. most days and rarely works weekends. He doesn't work longer hours than his colleagues. He works deeper. While others fragment their attention across dozens of shallow tasks, Cal protects blocks of time for deep work on his most important projects. In this audiobook, you'll learn the complete deep work methodology. You'll understand why deep work matters more than ever in the knowledge economy and why shallow work is destroying your potential. You'll discover the 4 deep work philosophies and how to choose the one that fits your life. You'll learn how to ritualize deep work to make it automatic instead of dependent on willpower. You'll master the strategies for eliminating distractions, especially the insidious pull of social media and constant connectivity. You'll understand attention residue and why multitasking kills productivity far more than you realize. You'll learn how to drain the shallows from your life, identifying and eliminating low-value activities that masquerade as important work. And you'll develop the systems for protecting your attention, the most valuable resource in the knowledge economy. But before we dive into tactics, understand the stakes. Your ability to perform deep work is not just about productivity. It's about meaning. Deep work is where you create things that matter. It's where you develop the skills that make you valuable. It's where you experience the satisfaction of pushing your mind to its limits and producing something excellent. Shallow work, no matter how much you do, leaves you exhausted but unfulfilled. You've been busy all day but created nothing of lasting value. The knowledge economy rewards deep work exponentially. The person who can focus intensely for 4 hours produces exponentially more value than the person who works 8 hours in a state of fragmented attention. The skills that matter, writing, analysis, strategic thinking, creative problem solving, complex communication, all require sustained focus to develop and deploy. You cannot become excellent while distracted. Here's the paradox. As deep work becomes more valuable, our culture makes it harder to do. Open office plans eliminate quiet focus spaces. Constant connectivity creates expectation of immediate response. Social media fragments attention. Meeting culture fills calendars. The default state of the modern knowledge worker is fragmented attention and shallow work. Deep work requires swimming against this current. It requires ruthlessly protecting your time and attention. The good news is this: deep work is a skill you can cultivate. It's not a talent you're born with. It's a practice you develop through deliberate training. Like physical fitness, attention fitness can be built. The strategies in this audiobook provide the training program. But like physical fitness, results require discipline. You can't casually try deep work a few times and expect transformation. You must commit to systematically restructuring how you work. Your transformation begins now. Not tomorrow when your calendar is clearer. Not next week after this busy period. No. Because the brutal truth is your calendar will never be clear. There will always be emails, meetings, and urgencies. Deep work doesn't happen when you finally have time. It happens when you make time by ruthlessly eliminating the shallow. Let's begin building your deep work practice. Chapter 1. What is deep work and why it matters? Deep work is professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. 3 elements define deep work. It requires sustained focus without distraction, it pushes you to your cognitive edge, and it creates new value or builds valuable skills. All 3 must be present. Focused work that's easy isn't deep. Challenging work done while distracted isn't deep. Deep work is hard focus on hard things. Let's explore why deep work matters through 2 lenses: economic value and personal meaning. Economically, deep work is becoming more valuable as the knowledge economy evolves. In the industrial economy, value came from physical output. Work harder, produce more widgets, earn more money. The relationship between effort and value was linear and direct. The knowledge economy is different. Value comes from creating, analyzing, communicating, and strategizing. These activities have highly nonlinear returns to effort. Consider writing. A mediocre report created in 8 hours of fragmented attention might produce minimal value. But an excellent strategic analysis created in 4 hours of deep work might produce enormous value, influencing major decisions worth millions. The quality gap between mediocre and excellent knowledge work is massive, and that gap determines economic value. Here's Cal Newport's economic framework. In the knowledge economy, 2 abilities matter most. First, the ability to quickly master hard things. Technology and best practices evolve constantly. The person who can learn complex new skills faster than competitors will thrive. Second, the ability to produce at an elite level, in terms of both quality and speed. Creating excellent output that moves the needle matters infinitely more than creating mediocre output that gets ignored. Both abilities depend fundamentally on deep work. You cannot master hard things while distracted. Learning complex skills requires sustained, focused attention. When you try to learn while constantly interrupted, the material never consolidates in your brain. You stay at the surface level, never achieving real competence. Deep work, by contrast, allows you to push past surface learning into genuine mastery. Similarly, producing at an elite level requires deep work. Excellence comes from sustained effort at your cognitive edge. When you work deeply on a challenging problem for hours, making progress through focused thinking, you produce outcomes that fragmented attention can never achieve. The person who protects 4 hours daily for deep work will produce more valuable output than the person who works 8 hours in a state of constant distraction. Here's the research that proves this. Sophie Leroy, a business professor, studied what she calls attention residue. When you switch from task A to task B, your attention doesn't switch completely. A residue of attention remains stuck on task A. This residue gets worse if task A was unbounded and of low intensity, which describes most shallow work perfectly. The more you switch tasks, the more residue accumulates, until your attention is so fragmented that performance on any individual task plummets. The implication is devastating for the typical knowledge worker. Checking email every 15 minutes means you never fully give attention to important work. Each time you check, even briefly, you create residue that reduces performance on the task you're supposed to be focused on. The person who checks email, Slack, and phone constantly is operating at a fraction of their cognitive capacity all day, every day. They're trying to run a race with weights strapped to their legs. Deep work eliminates attention residue by eliminating task switching. When you work on one thing for extended periods without interruption, your full cognitive capacity focuses on that task. You think clearer. You see connections. You solve problems. You create better work. This is not magic. This is how the human brain is designed to operate. Fragmented attention is the abnormal state. Deep focus is the natural state. Now let's discuss deep work from the meaning perspective. Beyond economic value, deep work provides psychological satisfaction that shallow work cannot. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who studied flow states, found that people are happiest when deeply immersed in challenging activities that stretch their skills. Flow happens when you're working at the edge of your ability, fully absorbed, losing track of time. This is deep work. Shallow work, no matter how much you do, rarely produces flow. Answering emails doesn't stretch your abilities. Most meetings don't require deep thought. Administrative tasks are necessary but not engaging. At the end of a day filled with shallow work, you feel busy and tired but not satisfied. You accomplished things but created nothing meaningful. Deep work, by contrast, leaves you tired but fulfilled. You pushed your mind to its limits. You created something valuable. That psychological difference compounds over time. Here's the practical framework for identifying deep work in your life. Ask 3 questions about an activity. First, does it require focused attention without distraction? If you can do it while also checking email or watching TV, it's not deep. Second, does it push your cognitive capabilities? If it's easy and comfortable, it's not deep. Third, does it create new value or build valuable skills? If the output is replaceable or the skill is common, it's probably not deep. Use these questions to audit your current work. What percentage of your time is spent on activities that meet all 3 criteria? For most knowledge workers, the honest answer is shockingly low. Maybe 10 to 20% if they're lucky. The other 80 to 90% is shallow work that feels productive but creates minimal value. This realization is both depressing and liberating. Depressing because you've been wasting most of your potential. Liberating because you now know exactly where to focus improvement. Let me share specific examples of deep work across different professions. For a writer, 4 hours of focused writing on a challenging chapter. For a programmer, 3 hours of coding a complex algorithm without interruption. For a business strategist, 2 hours of concentrated analysis on market trends and competitive positioning. For an academic, 5 hours of deep reading and note-taking on research papers. For an entrepreneur, 3 hours of focused product design without email or meetings. Notice the pattern: specific tasks, extended time blocks, no interruptions, challenging cognitive demands, valuable outputs. This is what deep work looks like in practice. Compare this to typical workdays filled with 15-minute task fragments interrupted constantly by emails, messages, and meetings. The difference in output quality and quantity is exponential. As we close this chapter, calculate your deep work percentage. How much time last week did you spend in sustained, distraction-free focus on cognitively demanding tasks that create value? Be honest. If it's low, you're not alone. The default state of the modern knowledge worker is shallow. But now you understand what you're missing. Deep work is how excellent work gets produced. It's how valuable skills get built. It's how meaning gets created. And it's completely within your control to cultivate. Now let's understand the enemy, shallow work, and why it's destroying your potential. Chapter 2. Shallow work. The enemy of excellence. Shallow work is non-cognitively demanding, logistical-style tasks, often performed while distracted. These efforts tend not to create much new value in the world and are easy to replicate. Answering emails, scheduling meetings, filling out forms, attending routine video calls, most instant messaging, browsing social media under the guise of professional networking. All shallow work. Not all shallow work is useless. Some is necessary. But it should be minimized, not allowed to dominate your time. Here's why shallow work is dangerous. It feels productive while being minimally valuable. You answer 50 emails and feel accomplished. You attend 5 meetings and feel busy. You message colleagues constantly and feel connected. But at the end of the day, what did you actually produce? What value did you create that wouldn't have existed without you? Usually, very little. Shallow work creates the illusion of productivity while preventing the deep work that actually matters. The problem compounds because shallow work is easy and addictive. Checking email gives you a little dopamine hit. Clearing notifications feels satisfying. Responding to messages makes you feel needed. These small rewards create a feedback loop. Your brain starts craving the easy wins from shallow work and avoiding the hard demands of deep work. Over time, you become addicted to busyness and unable to tolerate the discomfort of sustained focus. Let's explore the specific ways shallow work destroys your potential. First, it trains your brain for distraction. Every time you interrupt deep work to check email or messages, you're training your brain that distraction is acceptable. Your ability to concentrate atrophies like an unused muscle. Studies show that constant multitaskers become unable to filter irrelevant information. Their brains are literally rewired for distraction. Second, shallow work fills time that could be used for deep work. Your productive hours are limited. Maybe 4 to 6 hours of high-quality cognitive work per day if you're well-rested. When shallow work consumes these precious hours, deep work gets pushed to evenings or weekends when your mind is tired. Or it doesn't happen at all. The person who spends their peak morning hours in meetings and email has wasted their most valuable resource. Third, shallow work creates a culture of constant connectivity that makes deep work socially difficult. When everyone expects immediate responses, taking 2 hours for uninterrupted focus feels like ignoring colleagues. The always available culture punishes deep work and rewards shallow responsiveness. This creates a vicious cycle where everyone stays shallow because everyone else expects it. Fourth, shallow work provides no sense of meaning or accomplishment. At the end of a day dominated by shallow tasks, you feel exhausted but empty. You were busy but created nothing lasting. This lack of meaning compounds over weeks and months, leading to burnout and dissatisfaction. People quit jobs not because the work is hard but because it feels meaningless. Shallow work maximizes meaninglessness. Fifth, shallow work doesn't build valuable skills. You don't get better at anything meaningful by answering more emails or attending more meetings. These are replaceable activities that don't differentiate you in the market. Deep work builds rare and valuable skills. Shallow work builds nothing that makes you more valuable. Over time, the deep worker advances while the shallow worker stagnates. Now let's examine why shallow work proliferates despite being low value. The answer is it's the path of least resistance. Deep work is hard. It requires planning, discipline, and discomfort. You have to protect your time, say no to interruptions, and struggle with difficult problems. Shallow work is easy. You can do it without much thought while feeling productive. In the absence of clear metrics for what constitutes productive work, people default to what's easiest. Organizations also enable shallow work through terrible practices. Open office plans eliminate quiet spaces for focus. Meeting culture fills calendars by default. Instant messaging creates expectations of constant availability. Performance reviews don't distinguish between deep and shallow work, rewarding busyness over results. These structural factors make shallow work the default and deep work require active resistance. Cal Newport introduces the concept of the any-benefit mindset toward network tools. This is the approach where you use a tool if you can identify any possible benefit to using it without considering costs. I use Twitter because it occasionally helps me network, ignores the cost of time spent and attention fragmented. The any-benefit mindset justifies endless shallow activities because each has some theoretical benefit. The solution is the craftsman approach. Identify core factors that determine success in your professional and personal life. For each tool, ask whether it substantially supports these core factors. If not, quit it. This ruthless approach eliminates tools and activities that provide minimal benefit while consuming significant time and attention. Most people would eliminate 30 to 50% of their current activities with this analysis. Let me share a framework for identifying shallow work in your life. Look at your calendar and task list. For each activity, ask, how long would it take to train a smart recent college graduate to complete this task? If the answer is not very long, it's probably shallow. Could this task be automated or outsourced easily? If yes, it's shallow. Does this task directly contribute to core goals or is it supporting logistics? Logistics are usually shallow. Using these questions, audit last week's work. What percentage was shallow? For most knowledge workers, the honest answer is 70 to 90%. This is devastating. The bulk of your work life is spent on tasks that don't require your specific skills or training, could be done by others, and don't significantly contribute to your core mission. You're a highly trained professional spending most of your time on work that doesn't leverage your training. Here's the radical implication. Most knowledge workers could likely produce their current value output working 20 to 30 hours per week if those hours were deep instead of shallow. The other 30 to 40 hours are spent on shallow work that creates minimal value. This isn't hypothetical. Cal Newport and others demonstrate it consistently. When you eliminate shallow work and protect time for deep work, you can accomplish more in less time because quality compounds. Now let's discuss the psychological comfort of shallow work. Deep work is uncomfortable. Pushing your cognitive limits is hard. You struggle. You feel uncertain. You might fail. This discomfort is why people avoid deep work even when they know it matters. Shallow work provides psychological comfort. It's easy and familiar. You feel competent and busy. This comfort is precisely why it's dangerous. You're choosing comfort over growth, busyness over excellence, easy over valuable. The path forward requires accepting discomfort. Deep work will always feel harder than shallow work. The key is recognizing that hard feeling as signal you're doing something valuable. When you're struggling with a complex problem in deep focus, that struggle is productive. You're building skills and creating value. When you're easily clearing emails, that ease is signal you're not pushing yourself. Comfort in work usually means you're not growing. As we close this chapter, commit to reducing shallow work systematically. You can't eliminate it completely. Some shallow work is necessary for functioning in organizations and life, but you can minimize it ruthlessly. Aim to reduce shallow work to 30 to 50% of your time, protecting the rest for deep work. This single change will transform your output and satisfaction. Now let's explore the 4 philosophies for integrating deep work into your life. Chapter 3. The 4 Deep Work Philosophies. Choosing your approach. Deep work isn't one size fits all. Different people have different constraints, different jobs, different personalities. Cal Newport identifies 4 philosophies for integrating deep work into your life: Monastic, Bimodal, Rhythmic, and Journalistic. Each has advantages and trade-offs. Your job is to choose the philosophy that fits your actual situation, not the one that sounds most appealing in theory. The monastic philosophy involves maximizing deep efforts by eliminating or radically minimizing shallow obligations. You essentially become a monk devoted to your craft. The quintessential example is Donald Knuth, the famous computer scientist. Knuth doesn't use email. He doesn't attend conferences unless absolutely required. He protects essentially all his time for deep work on his life's project, writing the art of computer programming. This extreme approach produces extraordinary output. The monastic philosophy works if your professional success depends entirely on doing one thing exceptionally well, and that thing requires deep work. If you're a researcher, writer, or creator whose value comes from producing excellent output in a focused domain, and you have the career capital to turn down opportunities that would distract you, this philosophy can work. Most people, however, don't have this luxury. Their jobs require at least some shallow interaction and collaboration. The bimodal philosophy divides your time into clearly defined deep and shallow periods. During deep periods, you work monastically. During shallow periods, you're open to anything. The key is the division must be clear and the deep periods must be substantial. A few hours doesn't work. You need at least a full day, ideally multiple days or weeks. Carl Jung exemplified the bimodal approach. He maintained a busy clinical practice in Zurich, attending to patients and colleagues. This was his shallow period. But he also retreated regularly to a rustic stone house he built in the woods called Ballingen Tower. During these retreats, sometimes weeks long, he would write and think deeply without interruption. The combination allowed him to produce groundbreaking psychological work while maintaining a clinical practice. The bimodal philosophy works if you have flexibility to block substantial time periods, and your work allows extended periods of unavailability. Academics on sabbatical, writers with book deadlines, or entrepreneurs who can batch client work into certain periods might use bimodal successfully. The minimum unit is typically one full day. A few hours doesn't provide enough depth. The brain needs time to fully transition into deep work mode. The rhythmic philosophy creates a regular habit of deep work through simple scheduling. You pick a time each day and protect it for deep work. Every morning from 6 to 9 a.m., or every afternoon from 1 to 4 p.m. The same time daily, on your calendar, non-negotiable. The goal is to transform deep work into a simple regular habit that requires minimal willpower to maintain. This is the most common and accessible philosophy for most people. You probably can't disappear for weeks like Jung, but you probably can protect 2 to 4 hours daily at a consistent time. The rhythmic approach works because it removes the need to constantly decide when to work deeply. The decision is made once. I work deeply every morning from 6 to 9. Then you just execute daily. Brian Chappell, a doctoral candidate Cal Newport studied, used the rhythmic philosophy. He worked a demanding 9-to-5 job but wanted to complete his PhD. He committed to working on his dissertation from 5:30 to 7:30 a.m. every single morning before work. 2 hours. Same time. No exceptions. This rhythm allowed him to make consistent progress despite full-time work obligations. Within months, the habit was automatic. The journalistic philosophy fits deep work wherever you can into your schedule. Like a journalist who must write on deadline whenever they find time, you're opportunistic. You see a free 2 hours in your calendar. You immediately shift into deep work mode. This requires the ability to switch into focus quickly, which takes practice. Most people find this the hardest philosophy because it lacks structure and requires high cognitive flexibility. This philosophy works best for people with unpredictable schedules who have already developed strong deep work habits. Experienced writers who can enter flow quickly, or consultants whose schedule varies dramatically day to day, might use journalistic successfully. But it's difficult for beginners because the lack of routine makes it easy to never find time for deep work. Everything always seems urgent. Here's how to choose your philosophy. Consider 3 factors: your job constraints, your current deep work capacity, and your personality. Job constraints. Do you have control over your schedule? Can you block substantial time periods? Are you required to be responsive throughout the day? If you must be available constantly, Monastic is impossible, and even Rhythmic might be hard. You might need Journalistic or no deep work at all, which means you should consider changing jobs. Current capacity. Have you already built the ability to focus deeply for extended periods? If yes, Journalistic or Bimodal might work. If you're just starting to develop focus capacity, you need the structure of Rhythmic. Trying Journalistic as a beginner usually fails because you never actually do it. Personality. Do you thrive on routine or variety? Highly routine-oriented people do well with Rhythmic. More spontaneous personalities might prefer Bimodal, where they have flexibility in how they divide time. Be honest about who you are. Don't choose a philosophy because it sounds impressive. Choose what you'll actually maintain. For most people starting deep work practice, Cal Newport recommends the Rhythmic philosophy. It's accessible, sustainable, and doesn't require perfect conditions. Pick a consistent time, ideally morning when willpower is highest, protect 2 to 4 hours, and make it non-negotiable. After months of this rhythm, you can experiment with other approaches if needed. Let me share a practical implementation framework. Start with 1 deep work session per day at a fixed time. Don't try to work deeply all day immediately. That's unsustainable. Choose your best 2 to 4 hours. Morning often works best because willpower depletes throughout the day. Protect this time ruthlessly. Treat it like an important meeting you cannot miss. Because it is. It's the meeting where you actually create value. Block it on your calendar as busy. Tell colleagues you're not available during this window. Turn off all notifications. Put your phone in another room. Close email and messaging apps completely. If you work in an office, find a quiet space or arrive early before interruptions start. If you work from home, communicate boundaries to family. The goal is complete protection from interruption. During this window, work on your most important project. Not email. Not administrative tasks. Not meetings. Your highest value deep work project. The thing that, if done excellently, would matter most for your career or business. This might be writing, analysis, strategy, coding, design, or research. Whatever your core value creation activity is, do that and only that. Start with 1 session daily. After a month, if it's working, consider adding a second session. Some people eventually protect their entire morning for deep work. But start small. Success builds on success. 1 consistent daily session is infinitely better than attempting all-day deep work and failing. As we close this chapter, choose your deep work philosophy right now. Don't wait for perfect clarity. Pick the one that seems most feasible given your current situation. If unsure, choose Rhythmic. Then schedule your first deep work session for tomorrow. Make it real by blocking calendar time now. Philosophy without implementation is worthless. Implementation starts tomorrow morning. Now let's learn how to make deep work automatic through ritualization. Chapter 4. Ritualize deep work. Building your temple willpower is finite. Decision-making depletes it. Every time you decide whether to work deeply or check email, you're spending willpower. By the 10th decision, willpower is depleted and you'll choose the easier option, email. This is why relying on willpower to work deeply fails. The solution is ritualization. Remove the need for decisions by creating automatic routines that trigger deep work. Great creative minds build rituals around their work. They use the same location at the same time with the same routine. This consistency eliminates decision fatigue and creates psychological triggers that shift the brain into focus mode. When you sit in your designated deep work chair at your designated deep work time, your brain learns. Now we focus. Let's explore the elements of effective deep work rituals. First, location. Where will you work deeply? Ideally, dedicate a specific location exclusively to deep work. This could be a particular room, a specific desk, a library, or a quiet cafe. The key is consistency and association. When you're in that location, you work deeply. When you're not, you don't. This creates a psychological association that makes entering deep work easier. Cal Newport uses his office at Georgetown exclusively for deep work. When he's in his office with the door closed, he's working deeply on research or writing. Administrative tasks happen elsewhere. This separation creates a mental trigger. Office equals deep work. The mere act of walking into his office shifts his brain toward focus. If you can't dedicate an exclusive location, create a distinctive setup within a shared space. Maybe you work at your normal desk most of the time, but for deep work, you move to a different chair, put on noise-canceling headphones, and face a blank wall. The change in setup becomes the trigger. Your brain learns. This specific configuration means deep work. Second, duration. How long will you work deeply? Specify this in advance. Not as long as I feel like it. Specify, I will work deeply for 2 hours, or until I complete this specific task. Having a defined endpoint reduces the temptation to quit early. You committed to 2 hours, you do 2 hours. Additionally, knowing the endpoint helps you push through difficult moments. You can endure discomfort when you know it's finite. Track your time. Use a simple timer visible during your deep work session. This creates accountability and allows you to measure progress. Many people discover they thought they were working deeply for 2 hours but actually only managed 1 hour before getting distracted. Measurement creates awareness, which enables improvement. Third, rules and processes. How will you work during this session? What's allowed and what's not? Be specific. Example rules: no email, no phone, no internet except for research directly related to the current task. Process: I will work on task A for 90 minutes, take a 10-minute break, then work on task A for another 90 minutes. The more specific your rules, the less willpower you spend on micro-decisions during the session. Fourth, support. What do you need to support deep work? Make sure it's ready before you start. Water bottle filled. Coffee made. Snacks available if needed. Materials and research organized. Anything you might need during the session should be prepared in advance. Having to leave your deep work location to get coffee is an interruption that creates a tension residue. Eliminate predictable interruptions through preparation. Fifth, the shutdown ritual. How do you end the deep work session? This matters more than most realize. You need a clear signal that tells your brain, deep work is done, you can relax now. Without this signal, your mind keeps working, creating stress and preventing recovery. Cal Newport uses a shutdown ritual where he checks his task list, makes a plan for the next day, and then says out loud, "Shutdown complete." This explicit statement signals his brain that work is over. Now let's discuss the grand gesture. This is a radical change to your normal environment or routines that increases the perceived importance of the task. By making a grand gesture, you increase the mental priority of deep work and make it harder to quit when it gets difficult. J.K. Rowling, while finishing the final Harry Potter book, checked into a 5-star hotel in Edinburgh. The expense and commitment created pressure to make it worth it. She couldn't justify the cost unless she produced serious work. Bill Gates is famous for his Think Weeks, where he isolates himself in a lakeside cabin for a week twice a year. No interruptions. Just reading and thinking deeply about Microsoft's future. The grand gesture of leaving his normal environment for a week creates conditions where deep work is the only option. You don't need to rent expensive hotels. The grand gesture can be smaller, working at a library instead of home, booking a quiet conference room for a full day, or going to a cabin for a weekend. The investment of time, money, or effort signals to your brain, this work matters. Respect the time by focusing. Let me share a specific ritual Cal Newport developed while writing deep work. Every afternoon, he would leave his Georgetown office and walk to a library on campus. He'd find the same quiet desk in the same corner. He'd put on noise-canceling headphones playing the same ambient soundtrack. He'd open his laptop to the manuscript, and he'd write for exactly 90 minutes. Then he'd shut down, walk back to his office, and resume normal work. This ritual became automatic. The walk was the transition from normal work to deep work. The specific desk and music were triggers. The 90-minute timer was the commitment. After weeks of this ritual, his brain learned the pattern. When he sat at that desk with headphones on, focused writing began automatically without willpower struggle. Here's the practical framework for building your ritual. Start by defining the 6 elements. Where will I work deeply? When will I work deeply? How long will I work deeply? What rules will I follow? What support do I need? How will I start and end? Write these down specifically. I will work deeply at the library conference room from 6 to 8 a.m. every weekday. I will work on my book manuscript only. I will have no phone, no email, and no internet except for research. I will bring water and coffee. I will start by reviewing what I wrote yesterday. I will end by noting tomorrow's starting point. Execute this exact ritual for 2 weeks without changing anything. Consistency is crucial in the beginning. Your brain needs repetition to form the association. After 2 weeks, the ritual starts feeling automatic. After a month, it's a habit requiring minimal willpower. You've built your temple. Entering it triggers deep work automatically. As we close this chapter, design your deep work ritual right now. Be specific about all 6 elements. Write it down. Schedule the first instance for tomorrow. Then execute it exactly as designed. Don't improvise. Don't skip elements. Do the ritual completely. Ritualization transforms deep work from a willpower-depleting choice into an automatic routine. Build your temple. Now let's eliminate the biggest enemy of deep work, digital distraction. Chapter 5. Quit social media and drain the shallow. Social media is engineered to be addictive. Every feature, the infinite scroll, the notifications, the variable reward schedule, is designed to fragment your attention and keep you checking constantly. You cannot achieve deep work while maintaining heavy social media use. This isn't about willpower. This is about incompatible behaviors. Fragmented attention and sustained focus cannot coexist. Cal Newport's position on social media is radical and clear. Most knowledge workers should quit social media completely. Not reduce it. Not use it more intentionally. Quit it. This recommendation horrifies people. But social media gives me career opportunities. But I network there. But I stay informed. But everyone uses it. These objections reveal the addiction speaking. Let's examine them honestly. First, the any benefit approach to network tools. This is the mindset where you use a tool if you can identify any possible benefit without considering costs. Twitter helps me occasionally connect with interesting people, therefore I should use Twitter. This ignores the massive costs. Time spent scrolling, attention fragmented by checking, mental energy depleted by context switching, and psychological stress from comparison and outrage. The any benefit approach is absurd in other life domains. You wouldn't say, this sugary cereal has some vitamins, therefore I should eat it for every meal, while ignoring that it's mostly sugar and causing health problems. Yet people apply this exact logic to social media. They identify one minor benefit and ignore all costs. The alternative is the craftsman approach to tool selection. Identify the core factors that determine success and happiness in your professional and personal life. For each tool, ask whether it substantially supports these core factors. If yes, use it. If no, quit it. This forces honesty about whether social media actually contributes meaningfully to what matters. Let's apply this framework. For a typical knowledge worker, core professional factors might be producing excellent work in your field, developing valuable skills, building reputation among peers and clients. Core personal factors might be deep relationships with family and friends, physical health and fitness, meaningful hobbies and interests. Now ask honestly, does social media substantially support these factors? Producing excellent work requires deep focus. Social media fragments focus. It doesn't support this factor. It actively undermines it. Developing valuable skills requires sustained learning. Social media interrupts learning and provides shallow information. It doesn't support this factor. Building reputation might seem supported by social media presence, but most careers are built through excellent work and direct relationships, not through tweets. The support is minimal. For personal factors, social media performs even worse. Deep relationships require quality time and attention. Social media provides shallow connection that often substitutes for real interaction. It doesn't support deep relationships. It degrades them. Physical health requires time for exercise and cooking. Social media consumes time with scrolling. Meaningful hobbies require focused engagement. Social media fragments attention. Using the craftsman approach honestly, most people would conclude that social media provides minimal support for core factors while imposing massive costs. The rational decision is to quit. But addiction and social pressure make this feel impossible. Let's address the common objections. Objection 1. But I need it for my career. Do you? Really? Cal Newport has never had a social media account and is a tenured professor at Georgetown who publishes widely. Many successful people in every field don't use social media. The belief that it's necessary is usually wrong. What's actually necessary is excellent work. Social media is often an excuse to avoid the hard work of actually being excellent. Objection 2. But everyone else uses it. So what? Everyone else is also distracted, unfocused, and producing mediocre work. You want to be like everyone else? The whole point is to be different. To cultivate rare, valuable abilities while others fragment their attention. Be the person who actually produces excellent work instead of talking about work on social media. Objection 3. But I'll miss out on important information. You won't. Important information finds you through other channels. People email you, text you, or tell you in person. The information you miss on social media is mostly noise, outrage, and trivia. Eliminating 95% of information input improves your thinking, not impairs it. Here's Cal Newport's strategy for quitting social media. First, don't announce it. Don't make a dramatic exit post. Just stop using it. Disable apps. Log out. Walk away. Second, wait 30 days. During this period, pay attention to whether anything bad happens. Do you lose career opportunities? Do important relationships suffer? For almost everyone, the answer is no. Nothing bad happens. Third, after 30 days, decide. Did your life improve without social media? For most people, the answer is yes. Dramatically. They have more time, better focus, less anxiety, and deeper relationships. If your life improved, don't go back. If you genuinely need one specific platform for a specific purpose, return to only that platform with strict limits. But most people discover they don't need any of it. Now let's discuss draining the shallows more broadly. Social media is just one source of shallow work. Email, meetings, administrative tasks, and constant messaging all create shallow demands. You can't eliminate all shallow work, but you can minimize it ruthlessly. Here's the framework. First, schedule every minute of your day. This sounds extreme, but it's liberating. Make a time block schedule each morning. From 8 to 10, deep work on Project A. 10 to 10:15, break. 10:15 to 11, email batch. 11 to 12, meeting. Block everything. This forces you to be intentional about time instead of reactive. The blocks will change as the day progresses. That's fine. When something urgent comes up, you rebuild the schedule. The goal isn't perfect prediction. It's intentionality. Every minute is assigned. This reveals how much time shallow work actually consumes and forces decisions about what matters. Second, quantify the depth of every activity. For each task on your schedule, estimate. How long would it take in months to train a smart recent college graduate with no specialized training in my field to complete this task? If the answer is less than a few months, it's shallow. Use this metric to identify and minimize shallow tasks. Third, implement fixed schedule productivity. Decide in advance when you'll stop working each day. 5:30 p.m., for example. Then work backward. If you must finish by 5:30, what must you accomplish today? What can be delayed or eliminated? This constraint forces ruthless prioritization. You can't do everything, so you choose what matters most. Fourth, become hard to reach. Make people who email you do more work. Don't be constantly available. Batch email into specific times. 2 or 3 times daily, not constantly. Create email filters that auto-archive low-priority messages. Use sender filters or tools that make contacting you require effort. This dramatically reduces incoming shallow demands. Fifth, develop the habit of saying no by default. Every request for your time and attention should be no unless there's a compelling reason to say yes. Dinner with acquaintance. No. Conference that's moderately interesting. No. Committee that seems vaguely relevant. No. Your time is finite. Protect it like the valuable resource it is. As we close this chapter, take action immediately. If you use social media, start the 30-day quit experiment tomorrow. Disable apps tonight. See what happens. Also, implement time blocking tomorrow. Schedule every minute. Notice how much time shallow work actually consumes. These 2 changes, eliminating social media and scheduling every minute, will transform your productivity and focus more than any other interventions. Now let's bring everything together with final strategies for protecting your attention. Chapter 6. Schedule every minute and become hard to reach. Time blocking isn't about creating a rigid schedule you must follow perfectly. It's about intentionality. Every minute gets assigned to a task or activity in advance. When reality intervenes and the schedule breaks, you simply revise it. The act of scheduling forces you to think about how you're spending your day rather than reacting to whatever seems urgent. Here's the specific time blocking method Cal Newport uses. Each evening, he reviews his calendar and task list for the next day. He creates a time block schedule, dividing his workday into blocks and assigning activities to each block. The blocks vary from 30 minutes to 3 or 4 hours depending on the task. Deep work gets large blocks. Shallow work gets smaller blocks grouped together. The schedule is made in a notebook, not digitally. Why? Because it will change throughout the day, and rewriting it by hand creates a moment of reflection. When something unexpected happens and you need to reschedule, you don't just drag and drop blocks. You physically cross out the old schedule and write a new one. This forces you to think, given this interruption, what's now most important? By the end of most days, Cal has revised his schedule multiple times. The page is full of crossed-out blocks and rewritten plans. This isn't failure. This is intentionality in action. He's constantly asking, what's the best use of my time right now given current circumstances? This beats the alternative, which is reactive responses to whatever seems urgent. Let's explore the mechanics in detail. Start by dividing your day into blocks. Standard is 30-minute blocks, though some people use 15 or 60 minutes. On the left side of your page, write times: 8 a.m., 8:30, 9 a.m., and so on until your workday ends. Then, for each block, write what you'll do during that time. 8 to 9:30, deep work on proposal. 9:30 to 10, email batch. 10 to 11:30, deep work on client project. 4 deep work blocks. Specify what you'll work on. Deep work isn't specific enough. Deep work on Chapter 3 of book is specific. This clarity helps you start the block immediately without deciding what to work on. Decision fatigue is real. Make decisions in advance during scheduling, not in the moment when willpower is depleted. 4 shallow work. Batch similar tasks. Instead of checking email whenever, create email blocks. 10 to 10:30, process all email. Instead of attending to administrative tasks randomly, create an admin block. 3 to 4 p.m., administrative tasks and scheduling. Batching dramatically reduces context switching costs. Use overflow conditional blocks for tasks that might run long. 9 to 10:30, deep work on report, if not finished, continue 10:30 to noon. This acknowledges uncertainty while maintaining structure. If you finish early, you have a plan for the freed time. If you run late, you have backup time allocated. Include breaks and buffer time. Don't schedule every single minute with tasks. Build in 10 to 15-minute breaks between major blocks. These breaks let you recover mentally, handle urgent quick items that came up, and prepare for the next block. Without buffer time, any small delay cascades into stress. Now let's discuss what to do when the schedule breaks. And it will break. Meetings run long. Urgent issues arise. Unexpected opportunities appear. When this happens, don't abandon the schedule. Revise it. Draw a line through the blocks that no longer apply. Quickly write a new schedule for the remaining time. Ask, given what just happened, what's now the best use of my time? This constant revision trains your prioritization muscle. You're repeatedly forced to decide what actually matters right now. This is vastly better than the alternative, which is letting urgency dictate your day. With time blocking, you remain in control even when plans change. Here's an advanced technique. Schedule your entire week on Monday morning, not just each day the night before. Create a rough weekly plan allocating your time across major projects and responsibilities. Then refine daily. This weekly view prevents important non-urgent projects from getting perpetually delayed by urgent shallow work. Now let's explore becoming hard to reach. Email is the primary source of shallow work for most knowledge workers. The average person checks email every 6 minutes. Each check creates attention residue that reduces cognitive capacity. The solution isn't willpower. The solution is creating friction that makes constant checking harder than batching. First, remove email from your phone. This single change eliminates the ability to check email anywhere, anytime. You can only check email when at a computer. This forces batching because you physically cannot check constantly. Most people resist this because they're addicted to constant connectivity. That resistance is evidence you should do it. Second, turn off all email notifications on all devices. No pings, no badges, no alerts. Email waits silently until you decide to check it. This eliminates the intermittent variable reward schedule that makes email addictive. When notifications trigger, you're reactive. When you choose when to check, you're in control. Third, batch email checking into 2 or 3 scheduled blocks daily. Morning at 10 a.m., after lunch at 1 p.m., and before leaving at 4:30 p.m., for example. During these blocks, process all email with a goal of inbox 0. Outside these blocks, email doesn't exist. You're unreachable via email, and that's fine. Fourth, make people who email you do more work. Use sender filters or tools like Hey that make contacting you require the sender to explain why they're emailing. This dramatically reduces low-value incoming email. Also, be slow to respond. The person who responds to email in 5 minutes trains people to expect 5-minute responses. The person who responds in 24 hours trains people to send only important emails. Fifth, develop email scripts for common situations. Thanks for reaching out. I'm currently focused on deep work projects and checking email only twice daily. If this is urgent, please call me at number. Otherwise, I'll respond within 24 hours. This sets expectations and reduces pressure to respond immediately. Sixth, be comfortable with some emails going unanswered. Not every email requires response. The email that's just FYI doesn't need reply. The email from someone who can find the answer elsewhere doesn't need reply. Be comfortable with letting some email die. People who need something important from you will follow up. Let me share Cal Newport's email philosophy. He makes himself hard to reach deliberately. His university email address isn't on his website. To contact him, you have to work a bit. This filters out casual requests. When people do email him, he often doesn't respond unless the email passes his criteria. Is this sender someone I know and respect? Is this opportunity genuinely interesting and aligned with my goals? If no to both, no response. This sounds harsh, but it's honest. Cal has limited time and attention. He protects them ruthlessly for deep work on his most important projects. Being easily reachable would mean constant shallow work responding to requests that don't meaningfully contribute to his goals. By being hard to reach, he maintains capacity for deep work. You might not be able to be as extreme as Cal if you're in a different career stage or organizational culture, but you can move in that direction. You can remove email from your phone. You can batch email checking. You can be slower to respond. You can set expectations that immediate response isn't guaranteed. Each of these moves protects your attention for deep work. Here's the mindset shift required. Your time and attention are your most valuable resources. Protect them more carefully than you protect your money. You wouldn't give away your salary to anyone who asks. Why give away your time and attention to any email or request that arrives? Develop the same protective instinct about time that you have about money. As we close this chapter, implement time blocking and email batching starting tomorrow. Tonight, create your time block schedule for tomorrow. Be specific about every block. Tomorrow, remove email from your phone and turn off all email notifications. Schedule 2 email blocks. Outside those blocks, email doesn't exist. These 2 practices, time blocking and email batching, protect your attention for deep work more than any other tactical changes. Now let's conclude with how to build a deep life in a shallow world. Conclusion. Deep life in shallow world. Your attention revolution begins now. We've covered the complete deep work framework. From understanding what deep work is and why it's the superpower of the knowledge economy, to recognizing shallow work as the enemy that feels productive while creating minimal value, from choosing your deep work philosophy among monastic, bimodal, rhythmic, and journalistic approaches, to ritualizing deep work to make it automatic through location, duration, rules, and shutdown rituals. From understanding why social media and constant connectivity destroy your ability to focus deeply, to draining the shallows through quantifying depth, scheduling every minute, and becoming hard to reach, you now possess the strategies for cultivating deep work in a world designed for distraction. The question is, will you actually implement them? Let me give you a clear 30-day deep work implementation plan. Week 1. Choose your deep work philosophy. For most people, this should be rhythmic. Same time daily for deep work. Schedule your first deep work block for tomorrow morning. Pick a time when you're most alert, typically early morning. Block 2 to 4 hours. Put it on your calendar as busy. Protect it like an important meeting. Design your deep work ritual. Where will you work? What rules will you follow? What support do you need? Write this down specifically. Execute this exact ritual every day for 1 week. Don't skip. Don't modify. Build the habit through consistency. Week 2. Continue your daily deep work ritual. It should be starting to feel more automatic. Now add time blocking for your entire day. Each morning or the night before, schedule every minute of your workday. Assign every block to a task. When the schedule breaks, revise it. Track how much time you actually spend in deep work versus shallow work. Also this week, start the social media quit experiment. Disable all social media apps. Log out of platforms. See what happens for 30 days. Notice whether your life improves or degrades without constant social media. Week 3. Continue daily deep work and time blocking. They should feel increasingly habitual now. This week, implement email batching. Remove email from your phone. Turn off all email notifications. Schedule 2 to 3 specific times daily for processing email. Outside those times, email doesn't exist. Also begin saying no by default to new commitments. Every request for your time gets no unless there's a compelling reason for yes. Practice the discomfort of declining opportunities. Week 4. Continue all practices. You now have a foundation: daily deep work ritual, time blocking, no social media, email batching, and selective yes. Assess your progress. Are you producing better work? Do you feel less fragmented? Is your time more aligned with your priorities? After 30 days, you'll have proven to yourself that deep work practices transform your productivity and satisfaction. The daily deep work ritual will feel automatic. Time blocking will reveal how you actually spend time. The social media experiment will show you don't need it. Email batching will demonstrate you can batch communication without disaster. Now imagine where you'll be 1 year from now if you maintain these practices. You've protected 2 to 4 hours daily for deep work for 12 months. That's 500 to 1,000 hours of focused work on your most important projects. Compared to most knowledge workers who achieve maybe 50 to 100 hours of true deep work annually, you've done 10 times that amount. The compound effects are extraordinary. You've completed major projects that others only talk about. You've developed valuable skills through sustained practice. You've produced work at a quality level that differentiates you in your field. Your career has advanced because you can do what others cannot. Produce excellent results consistently through deep focused work. 5 years from now, you're a different person professionally. You've written books, built products, or created work that matters because you protected time for deep work while others stayed shallow. You've achieved financial success and professional recognition because you cultivated the rare ability to focus in a distracted world. You've built a career around deep work, potentially even leaving traditional employment for work structured entirely around focus. But beyond professional success, you've built a deep life. Your days have meaning because you're creating things that matter rather than responding to email. You have time for relationships because you work efficiently through focus rather than working long hours ineffectively. You're not exhausted and resentful. You're energized and satisfied because you're using your mind for what it was designed for. Sustained focus on challenging problems. Here's what makes deep work different from typical productivity advice. Most productivity advice tries to help you do more things. Deep work helps you do fewer things better. It's about subtraction and focus, not addition and busyness. It's about protecting your attention ruthlessly, not managing time more efficiently. It's about creating things that matter, not checking more items off task lists. The deep work hypothesis states, the ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare at exactly the same time it's becoming increasingly valuable. Those who cultivate this ability will thrive. This hypothesis is proving true across industries. The people who can focus deeply in a distracted world are producing exponentially better results than their peers who stay shallow. Let me address the final resistance you might feel. Deep work requires sacrifice. You sacrifice constant connectivity. You sacrifice being immediately available to everyone. You sacrifice the easy dopamine hits of social media and email. You sacrifice the comfortable busyness of shallow work for the uncomfortable challenge of deep work. These sacrifices feel real and painful. But what are you sacrificing them for? You're sacrificing shallow satisfaction for deep meaning. You're sacrificing busy work for important work. You're sacrificing being reactive for being proactive. You're sacrificing mediocrity for excellence. When framed honestly, these aren't sacrifices. They're trades. And they're tremendously valuable trades. The person who stays shallow is sacrificing too. They're sacrificing their potential for busyness. They're sacrificing meaningful work for email. They're sacrificing focus for distraction. They're sacrificing career advancement for availability. They're sacrificing satisfaction for exhaustion. These sacrifices are real but less visible because they're the default. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most knowledge workers will never develop the ability to work deeply. They'll stay distracted, fragmented, and shallow their entire careers. They'll produce mediocre work, experience minimal meaning, and wonder why they never achieved what they were capable of. The shallow work life is the default. It's the path of least resistance. Deep work is the path of most resistance. It requires going against cultural norms. It requires uncomfortable discipline. It requires saying no to expectations. It requires tolerating the anxiety of being unreachable. Most people can't sustain this. They'll try deep work briefly, find it hard, and return to the shallow comfort. This is your opportunity. If you can develop deep work as your core skill, you'll differentiate yourself dramatically. You'll be competing in a different league than those who stay shallow. The person who can focus deeply for 4 hours produces exponentially more value than the person who works 8 hours in fragmented attention. This exponential advantage compounds over time. I want to leave you with one final truth. Deep work is not about productivity for productivity's sake. It's about living well. Human beings are at their best when fully absorbed in challenging activities that stretch their capabilities. This is when we experience flow, meaning, and satisfaction. Deep work is the vehicle for these peak experiences. Shallow work, no matter how much you do, doesn't provide this satisfaction. You can answer 1,000 emails and feel empty. You can attend 50 meetings and create nothing meaningful. Busyness without depth is exhausting and hollow. Deep work is the answer to the modern malaise of busy exhaustion without meaning. Your deep work practice begins now. Not when conditions are perfect. Not when you have more time. Not when your job changes or your calendar clears. No. With your current job, current calendar, current constraints. You don't need perfect conditions. You need to start protecting time for deep work today. Tonight, schedule your first deep work block for tomorrow morning. 2 hours. Same time you'll use every day going forward. Decide what project you'll work on. Prepare what you need. Remove distractions. Then tomorrow morning, execute. Sit in your designated location. Close email and social media. Set a timer. Work deeply for 2 hours on your chosen project. That's it. That's day 1. Then do it again the next day. And the next. Build the rhythm. After 1 week, you'll notice the difference. After 1 month, it will feel automatic. After 1 year, your life will be transformed. From shallow busyness to deep meaning. From fragmented attention to sustained focus. From mediocre outputs to excellent results. Stop being constantly busy but rarely productive. Stop fragmenting your attention across dozens of shallow tasks. Stop postponing your most important work because you're too busy with email and meetings. Start protecting time for deep work. Start eliminating shallow distractions ruthlessly. Start focusing on what actually matters. Deep work is the skill of the future. Artificial intelligence will eliminate most shallow work. What remains is work requiring deep human cognition, creativity, strategy, complex problem-solving, nuanced communication. Cultivate the ability to do this work deeply, and you'll thrive regardless of technological change. Stay shallow, and you'll be replaced. Your attention revolution begins today. Schedule your first deep work block right now. Tomorrow morning, execute it. Then do it again the next day. Build your deep work practice one session at a time. In 1 year, your life will be unrecognizable. From shallow to deep. From fragmented to focused. From busy to meaningful. Deep work is how excellent work gets produced. It's how valuable skills get built. It's how careers get advanced. It's how meaning gets created. Stop doing shallow work that feels productive but creates minimal value. Start doing deep work that feels hard but creates tremendous value. The distracted world will continue offering endless interruptions and shallow temptations. Social media will keep trying to fragment your attention. Email will keep demanding immediate response. Meetings will keep filling your calendar. The shallow world isn't going away. Your job is to build a deep life within it. Protect your attention. Guard your focus. Create boundaries. Work deeply. This is how you thrive in the 21st century knowledge economy. This is how you build a career that matters. This is how you live a life of meaning and excellence. Your deep work journey begins now. Start today. Focus deeply. Create excellently. Live meaningfully. Welcome to Deep Work.